So there's this word that I hear a lot, and it's customer-centric. Everyone is trying to be more customer-centric. And what that means is not just knowing who our customers are, but why they do what they do. So that's their feelings and their motivations and their attitudes. And I'm massively biased, so I'm going to say qualitative research is a beautiful methodology that gives you that why, gives you that human story. So yes, close to 2 decades, 17 years I've been a qualitative researcher, and I bloody love it. I love it. I don't know how many people can say they love their job, but still I love it. And I've run thousands of focus groups. I did actually make the calculation because I couldn't believe there were that many, but there have been. And I've won multiple awards. I've had my research published. I love it. I'm a real advocate for what it can deliver when it's done really well. But you know what? Qualitative research is failing us. And it's not because it's a bit sluggish and people like me are actually kind of expensive. They're two big issues. But really it's failing because I'm just me. I'm a human. I have good days. One of these is a good day. But I have bad days as well. I also run awesome groups and great groups, but I also have difficult groups. And in those groups, I hear racism. I suffer from sexism, and I try not to boil over, but it's just me. I am pressured for an answer, for a recommendation, probably from some people in the room, perhaps. But it's still just me. So I have moments of clarity where I know what's going on, and then mass confusion. But it's still just me. And despite years of experience, the highest of professionalism, it's still just me. Just me being tasked with finding this thing we call the consensus of why, the consensus of these feelings, of these attitudes and these motivations. So what is this consensus of why? Well, the first skill that you have as a qualitative researcher is to draw out that why from people, draw out their feelings, their motivations, their non-rational drivers and behaviour. We're good at that. But I do that with one focus group full of people. It's 8 people. Then I do another one, another 8 people. And then I do more to fill up a whole project. And out of all that, I'm collecting this why, these feelings, these motivations, these attitudes. And then I step back from this big mess. It sometimes is a big mess. To find out where this consensus sits, this consensus of why. Then I take that and I share it with you. And it's that products live or die by. They are launched or they're thrown in the bin. Features of a product are prioritised. The direction of your next sprint is based on that consensus why. So big decisions are made on just me. And that's the question. Should I be responsible, just me, for providing this mess, but the consensus why? Should it just be me, night after night, in front of a one-way mirror, if anyone's familiar with that scene, then sitting for hours analysing, just me? It seems crazy when I actually stand up here and say it. So you can tell I've gone very deep. And look, maybe it's a premature start of a midlife crisis, but potentially, but I've gone really deep. And also deep with my co-founder, Rob, who's also a researcher of many years as well. And we've held a big mirror up to ourselves and had that moment. Should we be doing this in 2017 with the technology that we have? Should we as an industry be still doing this as we have since the Mad Men era? Literally not much has changed. Maybe the fashion, but maybe not. It's come back in again. So the question, are we missing something fundamental here? And I think you know what I'm going to say. The answer is we are. We absolutely are missing something. Because what we've been doing is focusing on making things cheaper and faster. which is important, don't get me wrong. But what we've failed to consider, really, is no one has questioned just me. No one has questioned just me finding, through all of this, the consensus why, and no one has questioned just me as being the best person to share that with you. That is the real failure of Qual in 2017, or nearly 2018. So, why are we going to fix this now? Because the way I see it, we've got tighter timelines, our budgets might be shrinking, but we're certainly demanding more of them. 2-week sprints, pressure from startups, it's a good thing, but also pressure from the top down. And this phrase, customer centricity, we're a company that is all about the customer, all about the member. I hear that all the time. And I don't think any of that is going to go away. But the need to understand our people will be there. Anyway, I've painted a crap picture. I'm going to leave that there. So let's go to utopia on this side. So let's imagine you've got this business case you need to present. You've got a pitch and you really want the business. But what you really need as well is some human insight, some why, some feelings, some emotions from the people you're trying to talk to. And you want to make an impact. You want to get this over the line. So you work with someone who's experienced, like me, and a couple of days later, you get this why back. You get the feelings and the emotions. But not only that, the consensus of all of this is found using hundreds of people. And they speak their truth directly to you. Now, I would call that compelling consensus. So, it's actually a long way back there. So there's got to be some things in between. Can I swear? Shitsville here. Utopia here. So what's going to happen in the middle? 3 things. We have to re-engineer what qualitative research is, this methodology that I love and know so well. We need to draw on my experience in getting the why out of people. We also need to be able to share these feelings and emotions with other people, other participants, other people in the project, because that's important. That's when the magic happens in qualitative research. Helps them to think deeper and go a little harder, if you like. But also, I've got to be quicker and smarter about this, because I've got just a couple of days now to get this consensus why. And I want to deliver it to you directly from the people who speak it. So there's a few things to do. So really that was the audacious plan when we started with my co-founders, was we know this qualitative research really well, so let's smash it. Let's smash that thing completely to bits and then pull out the magical parts and re-engineer it for the future. So we built Quali to do just that. So Quali is this online, video-based platform that gives you that compelling consensus. So consensus is, the consensus of why, is actually found automatically by hundreds of people in a project. So it's not just me anymore. Also, through that process, the participants themselves are deciding on who represents their feelings and their emotions the best. And that's who you hear from. People power. So it's not just me. Oh, and obviously we've got hundreds of people now. So even though I'm a purist qualitative researcher, we actually are really now a hybrid of qual and quant. So you get a percentage. For anyone in the room who needs to live and die by those, we do that too. And a faster and cheaper way of doing this as well. Okay, so how do we do this? We basically take a big pool of people who are right for the project. We take a smaller part, and they're sort of qualitative sized, maybe 30, 40 people, and they produce video outputs. Then we take the rest of the sample on this side, and it's their job to kind of listen to them and give those videos a score. Now, the scoring is based on those moments that you hear in a focus group. The, what the fuck? And the, that's awesome. Like, she's nailed it. I couldn't have said it better myself. And those other moments where people go, oh, I'd never heard of that before. It's really interesting and it's really valid. So I've recreated that moment. So as well, it's impossible to be live doing this. I've got to get through hundreds of these then in a night. But what is critical and fundamental to qualitative research, which we've re-engineered into this process, is the fact that people need to care, be engaged, actually be in tune with their feelings, be mindful of their life, because that's really important to the methodology, that's really important to the quality. So, I'm in video and I'm threaded through, as a researcher, the experience to kind of guide them through the process. So these are not vox pops. People really work hard for us, and they're insightful and they're considered and they're very raw in what they tell you. And sometimes it might be hard to hear, as you'll hear in a second. So just to recap, we're using all the experience of Rob and Maya's years and thousands of hours of drawing out the why. But that's where we stop, because we let the participants in a project work out themselves. We're consensus layer of all those feelings and emotions, and we take the cream of the crop, and that is who you hear from in a debrief. So it's not me. So I'm going to give you a tiny little snippet, a tiny little excerpt of a presentation that we've done. And here it is, Bootylicious. So as you can see by the flavours, a very sassy brand, but the product was sort of very healthy, portion controlled, low calorie, no sugar, all that sort of thing, but very sassy. So we put this in front of 128 women, 20s to 40s, and said, feeling warm about this, really into this idea, or feeling super cold? Now, we use that scale because we actually started with emojis. They're really common emotional language. But warm and cold allows people to overlay their actual feelings, because cold might be scared or depressed, but it could also be angry, so they can overlay their feelings how they like. So let's see, how do they feel about Bootylicious? No surprises there, I hope not anyway. So a big whopping, roughly 80% of women were kind of really over this idea. So, and sometimes that's where research sits, right? You get a big fat statistic. But what's really important is this customer centricity, is getting the why and the feeling. Like, what is that feeling behind that 80%? And what better way to share that than to share the next slide?
So my first reaction was just, ooh, when I saw the word Bootylicious. I do not want a tacky, over-sexualised ice cream. I just think the whole idea is horrible.
I hate it. I love the idea of the product. I love the idea of calorie-controlled portions. I love the idea of low-fat ice cream with regular chocolate, vanilla, strawberry flavours. I hate that the product is being promoted in a sexual fashion. I feel like there's been so much talk lately about the sexualisation of everything, girls, boys, people, and it's just another case of the sex selling going too far and now sex selling ice cream.
I love the idea of the product. I'm always looking for ways that I can still feel like I'm having a naughty treat but not go too over the top, blowing out the diet. So I love the idea of the product. I really don't like the name or the packaging. I think it's kind of dated, and I think the disco ball and the sexy flavour names is just a little bit tacky.
See how much more powerful and impactful that is than just saying 80% of people don't like it? So that's obviously a bad news story. So you flip it, and we're back to this business case, this pitch that you really want to get across. And it's a good news story. So you put that figure in your pitch deck, and then you support it with 3 voices, just a simple 3 voices, which, by the way, are not just 3 women. That's 80% of the market choosing those 3 women as their spokespeople because they represent how they feel about this idea. That's why we call it compelling consensus. So just to wrap up finally with a little bit about where Quali is up to, there's Rob and myself and Adir and Steve, there's 4 of us. We launched our MVP in December last year. In March this year, we raised a seed round of investment of $750,000. And to date, we're just about to launch our 82nd project through the platform. We work with clients in Australia, the US and the UK. So I am claiming we are global. Thank you.